What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Nerd Media, and with Captain America Brave New World marking a brand new chapter in the MCU, I'll be ranking all 35 of the MCU films that have released over the years, and I would love to hear you guys' rankings, but don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below what your rankings are, and turn on notifications. And with all that being said, let's get started with the MCU ranking. Coming in at number 35, if you guys have been fans of the channel for a while, you know it's Thor Love and Thunder. I think this film is just, it treats itself like a parody to the actual character of Thor, and they could have done that with worse stories because the Jane Foster story and the Gore the God Butcher story, they could have been some of the best stories we've gotten for the MCU, but they just turned into just parodies of themselves, and they just wasted a bunch of great storytelling that could have been awesome, but it was just a big pile of garbage. For 34 is going to have to go to Captain Marvel. I think this is the most boring MCU film. It's not that the actors did a bad job. I just think the writing was a big issue, and I think that the whole Nick Fury getting his eye scratched reveal was really anticlimactic and was just very dumb, and it was such a big mystery that they just kind of ruined. I did like how it was kind of set back in time, but that's probably the only thing I liked about it. Although I do think the Carol Danvers character is really fun and really cool, and they have improved on that character since then, but this was not a great first impression for me for that character. Number 33 is going to have to go to Iron Man 2. You guys know I'm like not the biggest fan of this film. I think it's the weakest of the Iron Man trilogy. I do like the opening scene that we get, and I do like the suit up scene in the racing arena, and I do like that we get introductions to Black Widow and Rhodey. I think that that is really fun, but other than that, I think that everything else just kind of falls flat. The villain's not great, and overall the story for Iron Man is not a great follow-up to the amazing film that is Iron Man 1. Coming in at number 32 is going to go to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This film is a big mess for me, and when we get into the quantum realm, it gets into even a bigger mess, but with the visuals. Visually, the quantum realm was not that pleasing to look at, and this film was supposed to be one of the most important MCU films we've gotten to date, but with everything being switched up with Kang going to Doctor Doom, this film feels totally insignificant and totally unnecessary to go rewatch. Coming in number 31 is The Incredible Hulk. This film's significance actually really rises with Brave New World now being in theaters and with the references that they do bring back, but that doesn't bring it up for me on my list. I find this film to be very boring, especially in the second act. I think that the third act is a lot of fun with the Abomination fight, and I think the first act is fun getting an introduction to Bruce Banner, but overall, not that fun of a film, and overall just very boring to me. Number 30 goes to Thor the Dark World. I actually do kind of like some things about this film. I like seeing the Thor and Loki dynamic. I really enjoy seeing those two together and how we just get to have another adventure with Thor. And overall though, the villain is not great and just some of the plot and the story is just not fun. But when we get that Loki and Thor duo, which is very present in this film, it's very fun. And I did enjoy seeing the aftermath of the first Avengers film take place in this film and kind of see Loki's consequences and stuff. That whole part was fun, but the rest of it, kind of meh. Number 29 is going to The Marvels. I did enjoy this film when I first watched it. I think that a lot of it is pretty goofy, but I think that it is overall a somewhat of a fun time. It doesn't really feel like an MCU film, if that makes sense. And I do think that the highlight of this film is Kamala Khan, but again, the villain is not that strong, and I do think that this improves on me liking the Captain Marvel character more, and it does have some enjoyable moments, but overall, not the best. Number 28 is going to go to Ant-Man and the Wasp. This film is somewhat enjoyable, but it's definitely not as enjoyable as the first Ant-Man, and I feel like after the first Ant-Man, the next two films kind of get a step down a little bit, and although not as bad as Quantumania, still not the best. I do kind of find myself liking the Ghost villain more and more, and I am very happy about the fact that we're going to see her in Thunderbolts, but this whole film feels like a kind of game of like catch, where they're trying to catch the briefcase the whole movie, and we're just going back and forth with it. Overall, not a strong plot, but somewhat fun. Number 27, this may be low for a lot of people, but Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This film was built out to be something very impactful for the MCU and very fun, but overall I feel like it just kind of became a big mess. I love the Scarlet Witch in this film. I love her as a character. I think that her as the villain was pretty brilliant, and I really enjoyed that. Sam Raimi probably should have gotten a different movie for this. I mean, I love seeing his horror elements in this and all that, and it really felt like Sam Raimi, but overall, not a great Doctor Strange entry. 26 is going to go to Spider-Man Far From Home. This is definitely the weakest Spider-Man film I think I've seen to date. I think that this film is just pretty not really that awesome and great for a Spider-Man movie, but for a superhero movie, it's pretty fun. But I look at the Spider-Man films as Spider-Man films, and this is just not a great one. Mysterio's an alright villain. I feel like they could have done him a little bit better and not made him a Stark employee. But overall, somewhat of a fun time. I have to be in a specific mood to watch this film, and it's just not that great of a Spider-Man film. Probably my least favorite. Number 25 is going to go to Thor. I think that this film is a boring entry in the MCU, but I do think that it's a fun origin for Thor. I think that he gets a good worthy origin, and I love getting the setup of Loki being the villain and kind of getting introduced to Asgard, and this new element of the MCU is fun, but looking back on it, not that rewatchable, and it's a little bit boring, but we did have a fun time with Thor, and I liked getting introduced to him, and those bleached eyebrows on Chris Hemsworth, I'm glad they get rid of them quickly. Number 24 is going to go to Iron Man 3. We're starting to get into the territory of Marvel films that aren't great, but I would rewatch them if someone asked me to, and Iron Man 3 is one of them. And this film is a lot of fun. I rewatched it around Christmas time last year because it's technically a Christmas movie. And I found myself enjoying it a lot, and I don't think I rewatch it all the time. I think that the villain is heavily misused and heavily weak in this film. But I do like the third act a lot with all the different suits. But overall, not that great of an entry for Iron Man, but it's still rewatchable. Number 23, this may be a shock to some people, but it's going to go to Eternals. I am a person who actually enjoys that film a lot. I think that it is a lot of fun. And when I first was going in to see it, I was very worried that I was going to be just bored out of my mind during this film and just kind of falling asleep. But I was actually very entertained, and I really liked learning about the Eternals and their stories, seeing the visuals of the Celestials and everything. It's so cool, and I'm sad that we're not going to see them ever again, but I'm also not totally upset about it. Number 22 is going to go to Thor Ragnarok. I know that may be freakishly low for a lot of people, but this film, over time, just the jokes don't hit as well. The entertainment value heavily goes down for me. It's overall not that really fun of a film once you rewatch it a bunch of times and think about it more. And I do think the villain is a heavy improvement on the previous two films, and I think that that is a big strong suit. And I like Valkyrie. I like going on this adventure with Loki and Thor and getting Hulk and kind of getting that connected piece. But overall, not that great of a film. Number 21 is going to go to Black Widow. I actually think that this film is very enjoyable, and I had a lot of fun watching it when I saw it in theaters back in 2021. Red Guardian is a standout. Yelena is one of my favorite MCU characters, and I love getting the introduction to her family. I just feel like this film definitely should have come out when it's set in the timeline. It should have came out around that Civil War period for the MCU. Number 20 is going to go to Ant-Man 1. I think that this is a very big step in a different direction for Marvel by doing a heist film. I think it was a lot of fun. I think it worked really well. Getting the introduction to Scott Lang was fun. The villain is definitely better than the previous two Ant-Man villains, and it's definitely the best of the trilogy, but it kind of goes downhill from there. But overall, it's a fun time. 19 goes to Doctor Strange. I think that this film is very fun, and it is a very good origin for him, but I think that it's the least rewatchable origin that we've gotten in the MCU, and unless we're getting to Doctor Strange 3 soon, I don't think I'd find myself rewatching this. But number 18 is going to go to Captain America, the First Avenger. I am a person who really enjoys this film, and I think that it's one of the MCU's best origin stories, and it's overall heavily underrated. Very fun. I love Steve Rogers. I love getting introduced to Bucky and seeing his origin story because I hadn't known it previously. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Number 17 is going to go to Captain America Brave New World. I personally really enjoyed this film when I saw it, and it was just a lot of fun and exactly what I wanted and thought that we would get for Sam Wilson for the MCU and his introduction. It's a shame that this film has to end up the way that it's ending up right now, but I love Sam Wilson's Captain America. He's one of my favorite MCU characters, and I really enjoyed the story that we got, with the exception of the villain not being too great, but overall, I had a really fun time, and it's just a fun movie to turn your brain off to watch. Number 16 goes to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This is definitely my least favorite Guardians film, but it's still really fun, and I really did enjoy it a lot. It does lean a little bit heavier, more into the comedy, but I don't see a problem with that. I don't think that it leans into it as much as other people say, but definitely the weakest, but it has some really awesome visuals, a really awesome villain, and really awesome character moments that the Guardians films are just known for. Getting into the top 15, number 15 is going to go to Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This is not a perfect MCU film, but it is a perfect tribute to Chadwick Boseman. It is one of my favorite films we've gotten in recent years from the MCU, probably my top 5 5, maybe even top 3, 4 films we've gotten post Endgame from the MCU. Very emotional, by far one of the most emotional MCU films that I've seen, and very awesome villain with Namor. I really hope that we see him again. And this film really made me love and sympathize with the Shuri character a lot more because this is really her film, and I just loved the journey that we went on with her, and it was just a very, very, very beautiful movie. Not a perfect MCU film, but a perfect tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman. Number 14 is going to go to Spider-Man Homecoming. This is not a perfect Marvel film. It is not a perfect Spider-Man film at all, but it is still a fun, enjoyable movie, and although I do have problems with how they handle Peter Parker and how he always wants to be Spider-Man, which is not how Spider-Man should be at all, I can just turn my brain off and enjoy this film because I really do enjoy Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Number 13 is going to go to Deadpool and Wolverine. This film has actually gone down a little bit on my list over the past few months. I've rewatched it a bunch of times since then, and it doesn't hold up in some aspects for me, but still overall very fun, and it was a really big win for the MCU that we kind of needed, and I really, really do enjoy this film a lot. Wolverine is awesome. Deadpool is awesome. Getting them in the MCU is awesome. Number 12 is going to go to Avengers Age of Ultron. I know this is freakishly high for a lot of people, but Avengers Age of Ultron was the first MCU film that I genuinely watched where I was like, yeah, I love the MCU. I need to watch more of these films. And with that, it definitely has a personal thing where it just brings it up a lot more. But overall, I do enjoy the story a lot. And I think that it's a really fun Avengers film that we get to see. Because technically, this is the only film that we see where the Avengers are assembled together the whole entire film. I think Ultron is a really fun villain, and I do think that he was underused in this, but I cannot say that he's going to be wasted because he is coming back in a Vision Quest, so I'm very excited about that. And number 11 is going to go to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This was a big surprise for me. This was one of my favorite origin stories we've gotten in recent years from Marvel because we've gotten a lot of origin stories in the past few years. This is probably my favorite one that we've gotten from the multiverse saga. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this film. I'm dying to see Shang-Chi again. Kicking off my top 10 with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. This is a really big leap for the MCU, and it was such a beloved film when it came out, and it still is one of the most impactful Marvel films that I've seen for me personally to date. A lot of fun. My first 5 out of 5 for stars for Marvel on this list. It's a lot of fun. I love it. Number 9 is going to go to Avengers Endgame. This may be a little bit low for some people, but this film does not go without saying. It is a little bit messy, but it is a really, really epic conclusion to the MCU and to the Infinity Saga. It was really awesome to watch, and this is a film that I will rewatch every now and then because I enjoy almost every single part of this film. I know coming in number 8 is going to go to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is a beautiful conclusion to the Guardians of the Galaxy and that team, and it's just overall by far the most emotional MCU film that I've watched to date. It never fails to make me emotional, and it never fails to make me happy to see all the Guardians get a happy ending. And it was really, really awesome to see that conclusion actually be done justice in a time where the Marvel movies weren't doing as great. Number 7 is going to go to Black Panther. This is a very, very impactful MCU film. I just love this movie. It is great. Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther, and it is just awesome to watch this movie over and over again. The Killmonger villain is one of my favorite Marvel villains that we've gotten from the MCU. It really felt kind of separate from what we've seen previously from the MCU at that time, and it really felt like it was its own contained world, and I really, really love that. Number 6 is going to go to Iron Man 1. This film has some of the best Iron Man moments. This film has some of the best Iron Man suit-ups, and this is the Marvel movie that started it all for the MCU, and honestly, how could you not have this film in your top 10? Because it's such an impactful movie for Marvel movies and for comic book movies in general. Getting into the top 5 of my MCU films, number 5 goes to Civil War. This movie is one of the best Marvel movies, and it is one of the best representations of what Marvel can be when they're at their best. And the Russo brothers did what they do best, and they made a really awesome, entertaining film that has some of the best conversations, some of the best storytelling, and some of the best dialogue and action sequences that we've gotten from the MCU, and I think that some of the conversations that are told in this film are just awesome, and the Team Iron Man versus Team Cap debate is still something that people talk about to date. Number 4 is going to go to Avengers: Infinity War. This is the definition of a Marvel film and what it can be, and how you're able to bring all these characters together to do a worthy saga and do a worthy film franchise justice with your conclusion. And it is a epic film, but at its core, it is a Thanos movie, and I really love that they went that route, because having the story focus on Thanos and everything was just such a great way to have us show why this character is doing this. Number 3 is going to go to the first Avengers. This film is the best Avengers movie. This film is the best team up movie. This film is one of the best MCU films. It is so fun, and to see how impactful this team up for the Avengers was back in the MCU when this came out, it's just crazy how impactful this movie alone was for the universe, and still is, because we still reference the attack on New York in the MCU. And number 2 goes to Spider-Man No Way Home, one of the most impactful movies I have watched in my lifetime, for my life personally. It is my second favorite Spider-Man film. It is just such a beautiful story for Spider-Man, and to finally see Tom Holland's 6-movie origin story come together in this was awesome, and to see us get a finally perfect Spider-Man that is just exactly what Spider-Man should be, and at the end of this film with that amazing suit was just incredible. And the theater reactions for Spider-Man No Way Home always get me. Every single time I find myself rewatching them on YouTube. And Toby and Andrew, they don't feel like cameos, they're actual roles in the story. And seeing Spider-Man go up against all of his original villains is just always so much fun. This is what Spider-Man is and should be. And at the core of this film, it's still a Tom Holland film, and I love that. And this film is so perfect. Number 1 is gonna go to Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I adore this film so much. I may have to rewatch it very soon because of the release of Brave New World, but the villain being Bucky and having all those plot twists come, and the role that we see Natasha Romanoff play in this film, Nick Fury, Captain America trying to figure out what he is fighting for when he is working for the Shield throughout his whole career, and then he finds out that that was just a lie to him. It's such a great and awesome story to tell for Captain America. I think that this movie is perfection. It is so good. I love this movie so much. I know it's a lot of people's favorite MCU film, but this movie is so good. The storytelling is great, and the way that they use the storytelling with Bucky and Steve, so good. And Nick Fury nearing death and having us think he was going to die in this film, so good. There's so many great things. The action sequences, the hand-to-hand combat, it is the best we've seen from the MCU. I love it, and it is just so good. I could go on for days about this, but I'm not going to, because this video is already long enough. But my number 1, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. But guys, that'll have to do it for my MCU film ranking for today. Let me know what your rankings are in the comment down below, and if you think my ranking is good or bad, where you would place some of the films on my ranking list, and overall, just let me know what your rankings are for the MCU if you've seen Brave New World yet. And if you haven't, still let me know in the comments down below. But with all that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, turn on notifications, share this with your friends, and with all that being said, I'll see you guys on the next video.